Hi, it's Nico. I finished reading The Go-Between by LP Hartley recently. It was a modern classic, first published in 1953. In this video, I'm going to share some thoughts about the novel itself and some scattered thoughts about love that were prompted by it. The past is a foreign country. They do things differently there. That's the opening sentence. The novel is a 5-star for me. It's actually the first 5-star novel for me this year. I am not generous in giving out 5 stars. You probably can tell. It's already April. I really loved it. However, at the same time, I wouldn't force it into everyone's hands or even tell people about it, as I did with the Napoleon of Notting Hill or A Tale of Two Cities last year, for example. Because one, I think it's not for everyone's taste, and two, more importantly, it's a very private story. Reading it is almost like hearing a secret told intimately, and I don't want many people to know about it. The novel is narrated by a lonely old man. One day he opened up a long-forgotten diary in a dusty box, and it brought back memories from a summer holiday when he was 12. Something happened that made an earth-shattering impact on the rest of his life. The rest of the novel tells the story of that summer. This aspect of the novel reminds me of On Chisel Beach. I only watched the film and haven't read the novel. I watched On Chisel Beach around the same time as I watched La La Land, which I also loved. I might have mentioned this to you before. I always compare them, and I think On Chisel Beach is the more realistic, sadder, more brutal version of La La Land. Both films have a sad ending, but La La Land has a rosier tint and a more glamorous feel all the way through. In the film On Chisel Beach, I see a truly ruined, wasted life because something irreversible and regretful happened when the protagonists were young. It's sad, partly because I keep thinking they were so close to happiness. If they were not so young, if they were not so stubborn and proud, their life could have been so different. And how long is one's life? 70 or 80 years? They spent so much of it regretting and grieving. They couldn't go back in time and correct their mistakes. They just have to take the consequence and live through life in the aftermath of that one decision. The last part of On Chisel Beach is so brutally realistic. It breaks my heart and brought tears every time I watch it. If The Go-Between is made into a film, I imagine it to have a similar feel to On Chisel Beach. At the beginning of the book, I imagine the narrator lived in a dusty, cramped flat with dim lights. The air smelled damp and moldy, and his teacup was chipped and dirty. I stood close behind his chair as he opened the diary. But as he opened it, his drab room with its ugly wallpaper faded away, and I was transported to a bright, hot English summer in a big country house at the very end of the Victorian era. Young people swimming in the river, men playing cricket, children sliding down straw stacks. When I write notes in a book, I usually draw a straight line for information like key characters and major plot development, and I draw a wavy line for beautiful sentences. This is one of the books that I kept having trouble with deciding if I should draw a straight line or a wavy line. There were so many beautiful sentences. Our young protagonist, Leo Colston, was invited by a school friend, Marcus, to spend the summer with Marcus' family. It was a world that was above Leo's common station, where beautiful ladies and real aristocrats lived. He fell in love with Marcus' sister, Marianne, who was 18 or 19, a kind of worshipful love given to a goddess. The descriptions of Leo's infatuation with Marianne are some of my favorite sentences. The author has a way of putting love in words, and it's stunning. What did we talk about that has left me with an impression of wings and flashes, as of air displaced by the flight of a bird, of swooping and soaring, of a faint iridescence subdued to the enfolding brightness of the day? What did we talk about? Nothing special usually, but simply sitting in a carriage, sharing the space, and having your full attention was all that was needed to make my heart swell and flutter. I had never heard her apologize to anyone before, and it gave me a strange feeling of sweetness and power. But I didn't know what to say next, and fell to looking at her straw hat with a bow in it like the sails of a windmill, at the patterns her flowery light blue skirt made as it trailed the dust. I had never heard her apologize to anyone before, and she apologized to me. She treated me differently. I'm special to her, and it gave me a strange feeling of sweetness and power. Then he just looks at her like admiring a picture. Her hat and the patterns her skirt made in the dust. He looked at the ground she walked on. A Chinese author once wrote, this is my paraphrase, "When one's in love, one becomes lowly, as low as the dust on the ground." I don't think it's necessarily a healthy kind of love, but I totally know how young Leo felt. I'll finish with this scene. A few young people went swimming, and Marianne came out with her long hair wet, and she was despairing about what to do with it. All at once I had an idea. It pierced me with joy. "Here is my bathing suit," I said. "It's quite dry. If you fasten it round your neck so that it hangs down your back, then you can spread your hair on it, and your hair will get dry, and your dress won't get wet." I stopped, breathless. It seemed to me the longest speech I had ever made, and I was in terror that she wouldn't listen to it. Children's suggestions were so often brushed aside. Imploringly, I held the garment up so that she could see for herself its fitness for the purpose. "It might do," she said doubtfully. "Has anyone a pin?" A pin was produced. The garment was draped round her neck. I was congratulated on my ingenuity. "And now you must spread my hair on it," she said to me, "and take care not to pull it. Ow!" I drew back in alarm. How could I have hurt her? I had hardly touched her hair, much as I wanted to. Then I saw that she was smiling, and returned to my task. A labor of love it truly was, the first I had ever done. I walked back with her through the lengthening shadows, anxious still to be something to her, though I didn't know what. Every now and then she asked me how her hair was, and whenever I touched it to see, she pretended I had pulled it. She was in a strange, exalted mood, and so was I, and I thought that somehow our relations came from the same source. My thoughts enveloped her, they entered into her. I was the bathing suit on which her hair was spread. I was her drying hair. I was the wind that dried it. I had a tremendous sense of achievement for which I couldn't account. But when she gave me back my property, damp with the dampness I had saved her from, and let me touch her hair once more, dry with the dryness I had won for it, I felt my cup was full. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next one.